On this podcast episode, I'm going to share with you how to teach children self control using emotional intelligence. So, if you have a child who is aggressive out of the blue, one one minute he's happy and then the next minute he's hitting you or hitting sister or throwing things and you're like, but what happens? We are just here enjoying our time. Or who goes from 0 to 1,000 in a matter of seconds and you don't understand why. If you are an aggressive family, if you're a calm parent, if you model kindness, if your husband or wife models kindness, if that is your children, then this podcast episode is for you, because I'm going to show you what the root of these unexplained behaviors are. I'm going to show you the three pillars of emotional intelligence that is going to serve you to teach your children self control and what they require in order to gain those skills. Once you are done with this podcast episode, you will be fully equipped and have a clear understanding of where your children are coming from, where the aggression comes in, and what to do about it so you raise kind individuals. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Parenting with Understanding podcast. This is your host, Marcela Collier. I am the founder of HIC Parenting Education Agency. We are a parenting coaching agency with the mission of helping parents break away from reactivity, become secure parents, and parent their children with peace from the understanding of their needs. If you've been listening to our podcast for a little bit, that's the sign that you've been enjoying it. Would you leave us a positive review? Just open the description and write hopefully a 5-star review, and that will help us get to more parents. So, how to teach children self control using emotional intelligence? Before going into the tactic on how to teach self control, we need to understand why the lack of self control. Why the lack of self control? So, there is a child, 7-year old, his name is Daryl, and he had unexplainable aggressive behaviors at the playground at school, and he was controlling of peers. And then it was, yes, it was very hard for him to cope with peer interaction and to actually be calm with teachers and sometimes with his parents. And then his parents were like, I don't know why this behavior, the why of this behavior. Many times they got reports of unexplained hitting in the playground, unexplained biting, unexplained throwing. And they were like, but what's happening here? We don't model those behaviors at home. Do you find yourself asking yourself that question? I don't model hitting at home. I don't model yelling at home. I don't like. I'm a kind parent. Where are my children are getting those things from? What am I doing wrong? And the parents, Daryl's parents, were blaming themselves a lot. If you hear Leo voices in the background, my family is here because it's Labor Day. Yes, I'm recording the podcast on Labor Day. This is how come I am to you guys. So there was unexplained aggression. And then the teachers, they set in place reward systems. If you are nice in the playground, if you're nice at recess, then you're going to get a special reward. None of that was helping him. The warnings and the reminders from his parents of you have to be a nice boy on the playground. You need to be a good friend. Good friends don't hit. None of that was helping Daryl. So what happened with this little kid? What happened? Well, there is something called implicit memories. What is an implicit memory? An implicit memory is nervous system information from an experience that was stressful in the past, that it is stored up in our nervous system and not in our conscious awareness. What happened to Daryl? What made him so aggressive and defensive on the playground? Now he was 7, he was in second grade, but this is something that he's been struggling with for a long time since he was in preschool. Well, in preschool, he lived an adverse childhood experience called bullying on the playground. There was a kid who targeted him every single day on the playground at preschool. That bullying was solved. The child the next year was not in the school anymore. So the bullying was solved on the outside, but not on the inside. Daryl was carrying that stressful implicit memory in his nervous system and made him hyper vigilant during recess, during peer interaction. It didn't allow him to problem solve with his peers, to be patient with his peers, to interpret his peers' interactions as safe, but he was seeing his peers' interactions through the lenses of bullying. So when his peers came to him without warning, when his peers came to him with a high energy, he misinterpret his nervous system, misinterpret those behaviors as unsafe, and prepare his body to fight or flight, which is to have a survival response. That's one of our two survival responses, one of our three: fight, flight, or freeze. So if you have a child who has unexpected aggression, it is nothing, no behavior. It happens without reason. My child hits without a reason. They hit because they enjoy it. There is not such a thing as that. Because you don't know the reason, because parents don't know the reason, that doesn't mean there is not a reason. And if there is not an apparent reason, there it is an indirect reason that could happen from carried out stress from other moments. That was exactly what was happening to Daryl. So if he was perceiving the playground environment as unsafe, there was no promise of getting a reward that would help him. There was no warnings in the beginning of the school day from his parents that would help him. There is nothing that would really help Daryl if this adverse childhood experience that happened in preschool wasn't solved. So challenging behaviors can be precipitated by memories, thoughts, feelings, sights, smells, sounds, anything could trigger a nervous system reaction to an implicit memory. Things that might not even be on the awareness of the child. Daryl's parents ask them often, "Why did you hit your friends? Why did you throw sand at your friends? Why?" And he either got goofy, he started playing around, or he just made up narratives. Well, they were doing this to me, when the parents knew it was the opposite because they got reports from teachers who were watching the interactions. Was it because Daryl wanted to manipulate the situation to get away without a consequence? No, it was because he didn't even know why he did it in the first place. Remember that his acting out behavior came from implicit memories and not something that was in his conscious awareness. So if you have a child who has out of the blue aggression, who just hits for no apparent reason, asking them why you hit might not help because they might not even know why they did it. They just felt a pull in their nervous system to defend themselves. And they did it based on something that they're not aware of. So when you are thinking about how to solve a behavior, you always have to ask yourself, what is this behavior meaning for my child? And what is the history that my child has had that could have influenced this behavior? But this is the thing. This is the thing. Most of us parents, and I say it because I'm a parenting coach who talks to parents more than she talks to her husband. That's why I tell Brian, my husband, I talk to parents more than I talk to you. Sorry. We take our children's behaviors personally. Most of them tend to take their children's behaviors as a measure of their capabilities as parents, or they judge their kids for having those behaviors. My child is rude. My child is manipulative when I ask him why he hit and he lies to me. My child is not a good friend. Or they get stuck in fear of the what could have happened if this continues, and they spiral in catastrophizing thoughts of what could happen in the future if this continues. He's going to become the school bully. He's going to be a friend, a bad friend. He's not going to have friends. He's not going to be able to hold jobs. He's going to end up in jail. We always end up in these worst case scenarios. And these projections, this fear, these judgments, this guilt don't allow us to see our children and their needs and what they're dealing with at the moment. And it takes us right away to reactivity, to yelling, to snapping, to spanking, to, okay, you need a bigger consequence because it's been the third time that the teacher told me that you hit a friend in the playground. It takes us to bigger consequences and producing another adverse childhood experience in our children, which is being raised by parents who don't understand them and who they don't feel safe with. And we end up in these kind of situations without wanting it, without knowing it, without even thinking about it, because we are blinded by our own perception and projections. Is this you? Is this you? I'm bringing this up to not judge you, judgment free zone here, because I bring this up because I see it every day in my parenting coaching practice. And as a parenting coach, my job is to help parents break away from their reactivity and become secure parents for their children by helping them understand what's underneath their children's behaviors, unravel their needs, and helping them help their children overcome their struggles and their needs instead of having them pay for having needs and struggles. I equip parents with emotional regulation skills so when they get the third report from school that the child hits another friend again, they don't spiral in reactivity, but they are able to be secure parents for their kids. And I equip parents in coaching with positive discipline skills so they know how to guide their children towards a better way of relating to others without having to sort to things that hurt their children, such as spanking or yelling or even timeouts. Yes, punitive timeouts are in the adverse list are in the list of harmful practices according to the National Association for the Education of Young Children. So if that is you, if you want to be a secure parent, but you spiral in reactivity, I have an invitation for you. I created a class where I show you the parenting with understanding system of needs to break away from reactivity so you can be that secure parent for your kids. You will have a clear understanding of your needs and of your children's needs, and to so you can address them with compassion and effectiveness instead of reactivity. This is a free class that you can access on our website, hicparenting.com, hicparenting.com, or you can go to our Instagram at High Impact Club, High Impact Club, or our our corporate account, HIC Parenting. Yes, High Impact Club or HIC Parenting. DM us the word class 25. No, hold on. Peace 25. I will mix it up. Peace 25. And we will share that with you the link to this free class. So you can start showing up as a secure parent for your kids. So, how did they come up? How did Daryl's parents come up with the understanding that it was an effect of, of an adverse childhood experience that he lived in preschool, that it was the fact of carried out stress from that experience? Well, when you look at an unexplainable behavior, a behavior that is not easily explained based on what you observe, you always have to see the history. What is the history of my child in this particular scenario? And the history for Daryl's experience is that he lived bullying at the playground when he was in preschool. And from that moment on, he's had aggressive behaviors at the playground all those years from preschool to second grade. So it was very easy to connect once they unraveled Daryl's history. So how do we move from there? Because reward systems is not the case. Is not what's going to help a child calm down their nervous system, nor consequences or warnings. The answer is by developing Daryl's emotional intelligence. And there are three pillars of emotional intelligence. There is pillar number one, and we're going to talk about those things in a little bit on how to develop it. Pillar number one is body awareness, which is helping Daryl recognize how his body feels when he feels that lack of safety. So when he is playing in the playground, and then one of his triggers is when peers approach him without a warning, how does that feel in his body? Because you cannot teach your children self-control if they don't know what to control, if they're not aware they need to control their bodies. That was the first thing that his parents, with guidance in coaching and in therapy as well, were able to achieve. They started training Daryl on understanding how his body felt every time a child was approaching him without warning or was approaching him with a high energy. So, how does your child look like when they are triggered? Do they clench their fists? Do they tight their jaws? Do they open their eyes? Do they start making noises? Do they start pacing back and forth? Do you even know how your children look like when they're triggered? It is important that you start observing them, because that's the information that you need to teach them so they can start observing themselves. With my coaching clients, we work in something called the emotional thermometer. Emotional thermometer, just imagine a thermometer going from green, cool, to red. So just imagine cool being green or blue, and then it goes to yellow, which is a little more temperature, and it gets to the boiling point, which is red. Teach your child to recognize they're cool, they're green, they're blue, they're orange, they're agitated, anxious, triggered, defensive, and they're red. They're acting out, boiling, very triggered, angry, very overwhelmed, very overwhelmed. How does that look like for their bodies? and to start recognizing those throughout the day. This is something that I teach my clients. Children are able to recognize their body cues during playtime before they start recognizing their body cues in a stressful situation or a trigger moment. So, what was the how to teach Daryl these this skill of this emotional intelligence skill of body awareness through play, through engaging play with his parents. So just imagine Daryl playing hide and seek with his parents. Hide and seek requires the skill of self regulation and impulse control to not be found. So just imagine little Daryl, 7-year-old Daryl, hiding with one of his parents while the other parent is trying to find them, and his parent coaching him through what it feels in his body to have the urge to make a sound, to be found, to move. That's how children learn body awareness through play. Because playtime is a contained, safe environment where they can learn skills and absorb those skills so they can use it in other situations. Teaching a child to take deep breaths and to recognize their body while they are triggered won't do any good for them because they're not in receptive mode. When they're playing, when they're having fun, when they're engaged with you, they are receiving that instruction, they are absorbing it. So if you haven't had good luck teaching your children to take deep breaths or to recognize their bodies or to talk about their feelings when they are upset, it makes sense to me. They cannot. They cannot because they won't be able to learn new skills at that time. But what they can do is to access already learned skills if they have them deep down in their nervous system from conscious practice day after day with parents. I'm gonna drink a little bit of water. So the second pillar of emotional intelligence is teaching their own coping strategies. So it's not just about how it feels in your body, it's what can you do with your body to help your body with self-control. Use your words. You don't have to hit. You use your words. That does nothing for a child who has zero body awareness and zero coping skills to help their bodies. You need to start with that first. What is the coping skill, or what is the strategy to help their bodies pay attention to their bodies? And this is very nuanced to the child. I tell my child to take deep breaths and they don't take deep breaths. Now we know it's because they don't learn skills when they're triggered. And it could be as well that they may not respond as well to that coping skill, but they might respond to another one. They might respond to walking away. They might respond to putting their, I don't know, putting their hands on their mouth, or they might respond to hug themselves to keep them from hitting a peer. So coping skills need to be paired up with the child's preferences, temperament, and basically with what they respond to. And in this matter, Daryl's input has a big impact. He's 7 years old and he's verbal. He let his parents know what could help him. If your child is nonverbal or if they're not old enough to tell you the strategy, maybe you can teach them a few and test which ones will help them. It's always related to helping their bodies, not so much speaking or verbalizing their feelings because they're not there yet, but something that they can do to help their bodies, to help their bodies. Okay? An iPad giving them a screen when they're upset won't teach them how to help their bodies regulate their emotions. Somebody's here asking me that question because I'm doing a live at the same time. So, something that they can do to help their bodies cope with that big stressor. And then number three is they're already body aware. They already have the coping strategies to help their bodies. Number third pillar of emotional intelligence is to work on emotional vocabulary. Dr. Daniel Siegel says that name it to tame it. What does that mean? Research has shown that just the capacity of understanding and verbalizing our feelings makes us less triggered, calms our body down. So if our children can verbalize what they feel, it helps them tremendously. But this is the thing. A lot of us want shortcuts with our kids. We want them to verbalize their feelings without working on the first two steps first, which is body awareness and coping skills. In Daryl's experience, it took him months for his parents to get him to a point to move to step three of emotional intelligence, which is teaching them to verbalize feelings. For a long time, they were working on him just having body awareness. For a long time, they were working on him just having coping skills. For a long time, they were working on those two things before they moved to teach them to verbalize. This doesn't feel nice to me, but like when you're touching me this way, friend, I don't like when you're coming at me and touch my body without warning. It took him so long to get there. So just say what you feel. Use your words. You don't have to hit. Just say you're angry. That skill is a higher level skill that it is so hard for kids to grasp. So hard. There is gotta be a process. So if your child is not there yet, don't blame yourself, don't blame them. You might be working on the wrong step. Let's start with body awareness, then coping skills, and then verbalizing feelings. And that's something that we help parents with in parenting coaching. So, how did they help him verbalize his feelings? Everything was through the safe container of play. What? Yes. Because this is the thing, parent. If your child doesn't feel safe when they're learning a new skill, they won't learn the skill because their brains are busy trying to survive the experience. So teaching them to verbalize their feelings while they are triggered won't take you to Rome. That's a Colombian saying. I don't know if you have that saying in your country. You won't go to Rome. So what is the goal of play? This is therapeutic play. So this is not playing video games with them. This is not being on the tablet with them. This is not having them play independently. Therapeutic play is an exchange of energy between you and your child where you are together problem solving something and in a scenario. That's therapeutic play. Hide and seek could be a form of therapeutic play if we are teaching them certain skill like impulse control. So the goal of therapeutic play is to increase their tolerance to uncomfortable sensations. Do they experience uncomfortable sensations during play? Of course. Remember when you were playing hide and seek when you were a little kid? Didn't you feel anxious, waiting to be found? Didn't you feel angry if you were actually found and you lost? Didn't you feel anticipation? Didn't you feel adrenaline trying to seek for those people who've been hiding? Didn't you feel frustration when you couldn't find the last person? Didn't you feel disappointment when you lost? So yes, during play we feel a rainbow of pleasant and unpleasant emotions, but they are felt in a safe container, not in an unsafe container as the child, Daryl, was feeling those feelings in the playground while he was thinking that he was getting bullied. So that's how he learned awareness. That's how he learned body awareness. That's how he learned impulse control. That's how he learned to take care of his body and verbalize his feelings. So, what are the characteristics of therapeutic play? There is social interaction. And yes, those are my kids talking in the background. Social interaction. There is got to be an exchange between parents and children. There is no correcting. So there could be an urge from the parent to correct. I was coaching a parent the other day. She was telling me during therapeutic play with my child was eating my dinosaurs. His dinosaurs was eating my dinosaurs, and I needed to correct that because that's not kind. She was robbing herself of the opportunity of having her child reenact stressful moments when she felt that the world was hitting her up, because this was an adopted child. When that child felt the world was eating her up and she couldn't do anything about it. Children process their experiences through play, and they reenact stressful moments through play, and that's how they process and give closure to those moments. So, correcting and redirecting and teaching will, I was going to say castrate, but I don't want to say that word. It will eliminate or hinder your child from their full authenticity and ability to release all those yucky feelings that are lingering in their nervous system, that is impairing them to thrive in their current in their current reality. So no correcting, and last one, it needs to be enjoyable for both of you. So obviously this parent was getting triggered when she saw her little kid eating her dinosaurs. I possibly it was triggering implicit memories for her as well when she felt that powerless at some point in her life. I don't want to go there. That was something we discussed in private. But if it feels triggering for you, if you're feeling too frustrated with your kids when they would not accept a loss in a game, then stop for a moment. If it's not fun for you guys, then stop and continue at a later time. The idea is to not lose that container of safety. Because if you lose that container of safety, then it is not therapeutic play anymore. Then our children are going to hold themselves back from fully pouring out their hearts and what's happening inside of them. So that's therapeutic play. Children's themes and the way that the play session is going, they are the leaders of it. You are just the facilitators, you are the helpers. You move with their flow, not them with your flow. From that playfulness, you can teach them the three pillars of emotional intelligence so they can control their impulses. What happened with Daryl? With play, in play, with advanced notice from his parents, like, remember what we were working on when we were playing hide and seek, when we were playing Simon Says, when we were doing this. Remember that you can contain yourself from doing something you really want to do. Okay, what can you do? Remember what we practiced? To take deep breaths. Remember what we practiced? To hold your body. Remember? Okay, or to ask for help. You can remind your children of their learned skills once they learn them. And that's what Daryl's parents were doing. And guess what happens? With time, his playground aggression diminished. He started recognizing his body. The aggressive moments decreased. He started recognizing and verbalizing, I felt upset, I didn't like it when, and he started setting boundaries with peers without using aggression. But this was a task, a big task that his parents took upon them with patience, with a lot of practice, with parenting coaching, and play therapy as well. So, coaching doesn't substitute therapy, and therapy doesn't substitute coaching. In play therapy, the therapist facilitated the therapeutic play, and in coaching, we, uh, as the parenting coaches, help this family navigate tricky situations at home so they could have a good, comprehensive way of addressing girls' needs and challenges and behaviors outside of the play sessions. So let's go back to the title. How do you teach your children to control their impulses? Using emotional intelligence. First things first, to understand the cause, the underneath cause of the reactivity. Once you understand the underneath cause, then go into do an emotional intelligence work with your kids by helping them, number one, understand their bodies, number two, helping their bodies calm down, and number three, communicating their feelings. That's how you teach your children self control using emotional intelligence. If this podcast episode gave you a clear understanding, or if it gave you golden nuggets and things that you know will help another parent, would you share it with a friend? Just stop what you're doing, send it to a friend right now, and say, hey, I think this could help you too, especially if you have parents of neurodivergent kids. We love to help those parents. Most of our clients are parents of neurodivergent children. So share it with them, say that it will help them as well. And remember that it only takes understanding of yourself and of your children's needs to raise secure children. I'll see you next time.